Hello everyone, welcome to Book Reviews, a segment that I'm doing after a long time. Today we will be reviewing David Baldacci's latest book, Mercy. Mercy is the concluding book in the four-part Long Road to Mercy series. For those who haven't read the series yet, here is a brief synopsis. The main storyline that the series follows is Atlee Pine's search for her twin sister, Mercy Pine. Atlee Pine is an FBI agent stationed in Colorado. Her entire life has been devoted to the search for her twin sister, who was abducted from their bedroom when they were 6 years old. The four books are supposed to be based on this storyline, but they vary in terms of the importance that they give to the Mercy storyline. What I mean by that is this. The first two books, and to a large extent even the third, focus on other issues rather than the Mercy storyline. The last one, that is Mercy, focuses exclusively on the search for Mercy and the reunion between the sisters and the consequences of the reunion. I remember saying in my Long Road to Mercy review that the one or two chapters that were devoted to the Mercy storyline were far more interesting than the nuclear bomb or whatever plot was there in that book. Similarly, I don't remember much about the second book either, but I do remember the Mercy storyline in the third book, how they discover where Mercy is, how they discover where their parents are, and obviously the fourth book, which I just read now. Let's look at this book, Mercy, itself. Mercy is probably the best book in the series, but when you compare it to other books by David Baldacci, it would probably be below average or average at best. For the most part, the writing is decent, the pacing is good, and the characters are excellent. But what happens is around the 80% mark, that the story itself takes a sudden right angle turn in terms of the quality, and you find characters acting out of character, and you find that the pacing changes and the writing also changes. More on that later. Let's look at the positives first. The new characters in the book are quite compelling, and they kept me interested for most of the story, at least until the 80% mark that I mentioned before. Let's look at Mercy first. Mercy is a character who doesn't disappoint. It is great to see another female character, and in this case, it's both literal and figurative, since Mercy is a professional fighter. I liked her strength of spirit. She goes from being a lost naive girl in the woods to being a strong, independent woman who takes no shit from anyone. Baldacci makes his character evolution smooth, and it is believable as to how she goes from one end of the spectrum to the other. It is also quite a pleasure to read how she overcomes the trauma of her childhood and becomes the Mercy that we know today. That said, there is a huge flaw in the three main women characters in the book. That is Atlee, Mercy, and Britt. The problem seems to be that Baldacci came up with this great woman character, Atlee Pine. He has taken the same template and used it to create Mercy and Britt without making any changes to this template at all. What I mean by that is, all three of them know how to fight, all three of them have similar skill sets, and all three of them are tall and hefty. It would have been good if we had spent a little bit more time in fleshing out their characters and giving them unique traits that make them stand out on their own. Don't get me wrong, they are great characters. It's just that they are interchangeable between the three of them. Coming back to the book, let's look at the villain. Right? The main protagonist is a pleasure to read. When he is introduced in the book, he comes across as a suave, kind-hearted, and intelligent person. It is quite difficult to believe that he would be the villain in the book. His motivation for finding Mercy seems quite believable, and I kept hoping that given his character, he would probably change his mind towards the end of the book or something of the sort. Unfortunately, Baldacci does something drastic to this character, and this comes back to the 80% mark that I spoke about. Around the 80% mark, this character suddenly goes from having all these great attributes like being kind to the working class, being suave, using money as a means of getting information rather than the stick, and being an atypical criminal lord, to being a cartoonist, stereotypical criminal that we know about. He behaves like a thug. He wants a fight to happen, which seems absurd. His motivations have changed from being personal to something that is fantastical. And at that point, the book breaks down for me. And that brings me to the next problem. The climax feels rushed and very weak. Right at the moment where the main villain's motivations change from being realistic and believable to being something fantastical and conspiracy driven, the whole sequence of events that follows this seems a bit light on details, feels rushed, and it feels as though it's a bunch of cliches that have been copy pasted from the hundreds of action novels out there. There is a fight sequence that happens, which I won't get into for fear of spoilers. It is supposed to be emotionally wrenching. Rather, it turns out to be very insipid and it runs for only 2-3 pages. Following the fight sequence, the heroes are chased by this person's minions, and we get to hear that there are tons of minions and these guys can't fight them, which seems realistic. But suddenly, what they decide to do, they decide to fight them. And this whole fight sequence is over and again in 2 or 3 pages, which seems, and the resolution for this fight also seems far-fetched. Meaning there's a sniper who takes down half the army, and then Atlee and the sniper kill the remaining people, and Mercy gets to deliver the coup de grace to the main villain. All felt emotionally unsatisfying. It's like you've been waiting for this big payoff and it doesn't happen in the end. And that is one of the biggest letdowns for me in this book. Well, that captures the main thoughts that I had about the book. Here are a few other random thoughts I had about certain events. For one, I think the ending was a bit too happy and sappy and not in keeping with the tone of the series. This left me in two minds. On the one hand, I felt this wasn't that great an ending, given that it's very happy, sappy, everybody's, gets what they want, so on and so forth. On the other hand, I'm just happy that David Baldacci tied up all the loose ends and the series is done with. The other thing I want to talk about is the reunion between Atlee and Mercy. I think this was done and dealt with by Baldacci very well. It's not like in the movies where the two characters meet each other and after 30 years of being separated, they decide to become best buddies again. It's not like that. Atlee and Mercy have to really work at it to rekindle their sisterly bond. I really like this aspect of the storytelling. And I also feel there are a couple of characters here, Mercy for one and Brit for the other, who will be probably good in their own spin-off series. I, for one, wouldn't mind seeing Mercy in her own spin-off because of the way the character is. In conclusion, while Mercy is a decent read, below average by the David Baldacci standards, I think this is probably the worst of the series that he's written, and I'm guessing he, like me, is happy that the series is over and he doesn't have to look at it again. Thank you. Bye bye.